All right, Kenman here. Today is die project number 64. And we have a beautiful, beautiful knife here. If you remember one of my earliest ones, it's one of the banners on the channel. We have a Civivi Vision FG with the Damascus and the white G10. Check this out. This is a little bit overdue. Wheezy and Josh, Wheezy, the Wheezies, I met them up for the second time at Blade Show, Texas a little while back here. And Josh has been trying to buy my red Vision FG ever since I dyed it. And it's one of my favorites. I got to keep it in my collection. And so he ended up buying a Vision FG for himself, gave it to me at the end of Texas and said, hey, do a dye on this for me. Here we are. Took us a couple of weeks to kind of figure out what we wanted to do for the dye, and then this last month I've just been super busy, but here we are. We have it. Dye project number 64 about to happen for good old Josh here. What color are we gonna do? I'm excited. All right, let's get to it. I need to get my trusty board over here that's covered with junk that I didn't prep before the video, because why would I? Set the table for success. There we are. And let's take this thing apart and we're going to do the dye. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to time lapse the tear down just to speed it up a little bit, and then we can get into the kitchen, get the dye prepped, and get to the next step. So away we go. Piece of cake, taking this one apart a couple of times now, and I struggled putting it back together. I'm wondering if I can actually just leave that sandwiched. I fully took it apart last time. If you would like to see what the insides of that looks like, you can go back. I'll click the link in the description of my first Vision FG die. But yeah, I might be able to just leave that like that for putting it back together. Real easy to notice the captive pivot notch right there. So when you're doing the reassembly with this piece, it goes on that side. We'll try to just keep everything close, but always pay attention when you take a knife apart, because you do have to put it back together, and some parts only go in certain places. I had one piece that I dropped. I thought I dropped it on the floor, but it was on the table because I thought I needed one more for an extra hole, and I was wrong. You live and learn. So we've got these all removed. I'm going to go wash them in the sink, clean off any oils or debris that's on there that might affect the dye as it soaks in, and then we will get to it. So I will see you in the kitchen. Here we are. I'm attempting to do a fade with these. So I've got them on these hooks. I've got a little spacer in there. I'm going to do a freestyle drop. Red goes really fast. We're going to try a pink to red. We want it white at the top to pink to red. I'm not going to talk much. We're just going to get right into it. I'm going to try to keep this even, do a nice clean drop, and see what happens. Red and pinks go really fast. Here we go. And because it's white, it doesn't take long. Get some action. Wow. Check that out already. So we're going to try one more, but I'm going to dry them off a little bit, because if they do have a lot of moisture on the surface, what can happen is the dye will bleed right up that and cause it to shoot up quicker, and we want it to just evenly flow up these scales. Kind of got a couple little lines there. That's what happens if you kind of stop. That's going to create a line. So when you're doing a fade, you really want to just keep moving at a certain pace. But we are going to go red at the bottom, which is going to hide that out, so I think we should be fine. All right, we're gonna do one more dip just like that. Here we go. Try to stay smooth. Get that rinse. See where we're getting a little bit better of a fade. Now the lines are kind of blending, which is good. The darker it gets. But the thing is if you let it sit, let a spot sit on there, this water is instantly neutralizing it. If you let it sit, it's going to go fast. And you can see how quick this is going. Josh wanted white to pink initially. I told him I didn't know if I'd be able to do it. But now that I'm looking at this, we actually may be able to do that. I was just kind of worried that the pink is hard to kind of get a hot neon pink. It kind of looks brighter than it is actually right now. All right, here we go. Dip number 3. Nice and smooth. I saw it bleeding up the back there a little faster. I didn't get it dry enough that time. I'm quite happy with what we're getting though so far. That looks pretty great, right? I actually probably going to stop part way, get a hold of Josh and ask him if he does want me to go just the white to pink here. We might be able to achieve it. It's not going to be bright pink though. Maybe we'll do a little red right at the end. This is working out pretty good. When you spill like that, you got to be careful. If you get that on something, anything you don't want to dye, it will dye really fast. Luckily, metal on a stove, it doesn't really, it wipes off usually, no problem. Can't get that in on there. I am going to, not sure. I'm gonna dry these off. Probably give it a few more drops. Maybe we'll time lapse a few more drops. Or maybe I should just hit stop in between, do a few drops because I'm sitting here drying them off. Sorry, I'm not on camera there. My bad. The big thing in here, or right here, is it's all about prep. And so if they're not really dry and we go back in there, I was seeing it, I don't know if you could saw it on the camera. But I saw it kind of bleeding up the back. I didn't really dry the backs as good. It's not going to really matter on the back because you're not going to see it. It's going to be hidden under there with the skit or the liners and everything. This is our show side. And I did get that side drier. It wasn't really doing it on this side here. But okay, I'm going to turn this back up a little bit. Keep that nice and hot. You want your dye hot, but you don't need it boiling. I've seen people do it with a rolling boil, but that's not totally necessary. I found just hot dye works. Room temperature dye will work as well, but it takes a lot longer. Maybe in something like reds and pinks might go faster, but room temperature could take days versus hot dye can take minutes. What do we think? Looking good? Alright, I see the rolling on the top there. That is nice and hot. Turn that back off. We're going to do another dip. Here we go. Dropping. Right? These are looking fun. I do have a motor that I use for doing fade dyes. But I know that when you use the reds, the pinks, certain colors go much quicker, especially with white G10. White G10 and red is like about the fastest reacting combo. So I figured the hand drop, what I'm doing right now, is probably the smartest move because the motor that I have that it drops at about 3 revolutions per minute, and it's on a small screw, so we're talking maybe a 1/2 inch of drop per minute. So like this entire distance would probably take at least a couple of minutes for it to go, but that's kind of nice for certain fades, because some fades you really need to leave it in there for 10 minutes or so. This is looking good. I think I'm going to do one more. I really like the way the fade's looking up here. Those lines that we had made, there's still kind of one right in there, but as we do this, it kind of evens it out a little bit, because you might make little lines in other places and it kind of fills it in and tricks your eye, but you can kind of see at certain angles. There's a little bit, you do your best, but that is the main thing. If you stop for a good solid second, that will probably leave a line to show. One other method would be to maybe not have the die as hot. All right, we're doing one more dip here, and away we go. All right, I think I'm happy with that for now, and I am going to dry these off and take a picture, send it to Josh, tell me what he thinks, and decide if we want to make it a little darker or not. So we will be back shortly. What do we think? Check it out. All right. Well, a pleasant surprise. No red needed, just a nice white to pink fade. Oh yeah, exactly what Josh wanted. The Vision FG with the super lock. Look at this action on here. Solid. So blade is tight, no play. Back to centered quite nicely. I didn't actually have to take the entire frame apart. On the inside there, you saw when I took it apart, everything was still kind of sandwiched together. So since I'd already dyed mine back in the day, this has seen some years on it. Already saw what it looked like. As I said before, I do have the link for that one in the description if you want to see more what the insides of this super lock are all about and watch me fidgeting with my first reassembly. But we are done. Another die project in the books. I'm going to take some pictures, get this sent up to Josh. I did send him a few pre-reassembly pics, and he was happy with it. Looks good. Tell me what you think. Another fade die in the books. Stay sharp. We'll see you soon.